we're modern lovers. We met online, but it was LinkedIn, not, is it Tinder or something, whatever it is you guys use out there nowadays.
What am I closing? What am I developing? What am I prospecting?
I suffer from slippage.
Well, there's lots of things to unpick there.
I put a post on LinkedIn earlier myself. Again, another little light bulb moment in the bath this morning. Try not to picture that, by the way. Thanks ever so much for joining us here on the Channel Zone podcast. For those who don't know, I'll give a little bit of background, if I can, Dan, as to how we met. We're kind of modern lovers, I think, in some respects, in as much as we met online. We met online, kind of bumped into each other, but it was on LinkedIn. And I think the key to me was I went to your kind of post on LinkedIn, and you kind of jumped out. I see so much, I don't know, kind of fluff on LinkedIn in many respects. And it was your posts that really kind of intrigued me. And that kind of, we opened up a conversation, we get speaking to one another, and then we find out, although we've never met, our paths haven't crossed. But when I'm telling you about my introduction into business-to-business sales back in the 1980s, when I met a blue suit, white shirt, red tie, BMW driving sales guy called Steve Dawes, you go, is that Steve Dawes who used to be at Citrix? And yes, it was. But it's probably, 100,000 people out there whose paths have crossed Steve Dawes. So we're connected to us all, bit by bit. But Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself and about Allbound. Just give us a bit of backstory, if you will. How do you get to where you are today?
Well, I'll give you the short version, but I've been doing this for 27, 28 years now. Been through the whole channel, started in reseller, went to distribution, from there into vendor, through running sales teams, back to individual contributor, went and ran my own consultancy business for a while, came back in biz dev for 3 years, and found myself in April last year at Allbound, really. Not a planned move, was at Automation Anywhere, but they had a bit of a restructuring inside of their business, which meant that they made some changes, and I wasn't part of those changes, unfortunately. And as one door closes, another always opens.
Brilliant.
You never know it's going to happen. And that door closed, and within a week, someone I knew reached out to me, and the guy I'm working with here, Paul Higley, who I've been working with for years, a gentleman called Paul Semarini, who we were all together at Absence many, many moons ago. And he landed at Allbound and was looking to build a team and grow a business again. And just so happened that we'd had a door close and we're looking for the next one. So couldn't have been happier to reconnect with Paul.
That's brilliant. The Allbound was a company I'd never heard of, so I've done a little bit of kind of research since we met online last week. So it's is it PRM? Is it kind of partner relationship management? So the kind of CRM, but with a partnership spin, I think. Can you tell us a little bit about what is PRM? What does it do?
PRM. So I think you're right. The easiest analogy is what CRM does for customer, PRM does for the partner, right? The CRM is very much designed and it's customer centric, but that indirect model isn't the same as the direct model. There are some differences in there, and the CRM doesn't scale and support the partners in the same way. So we tend to see that people are looking at a PRM firstly is because they're trying to demonstrate to their partners that they're serious about working with them. So it's a showcase that they're experienced and they want to be driving forward in the partner space. Tend to be in a lot of organizations, you have high value individuals to go and grow these partnerships, but they end up spending a lot of time doing a lot of admin, collecting deal regs, serving up content, chasing people for updates, right? It's just a channel automation platform, right? PRM is channel automation. It's that learning. If you're a channel manager and you're a small team, 2 or 3 of you trying to run a channel across the globe with many partners, you can't be in there doing all the training all the time. So you can centralize that with your LMS. You centralize all your content in there. You centralize all your deal registrations in there. You centralize your MDF in there. So all this stuff that's been typically done manually because the CRM didn't allow you to do it, PRMs are there as that first step into channel automation to help you drive your partner program forward.
Right. So how many, or what percentage of vendors currently use PRM? So a partner relationship, not necessarily Allbound, but what percentage of vendors are already on board with this technology?
Yeah, so we do some research on that. not just for this, but in general, right? And the PRM space, if you look at Canalys Islands, is about 700-800 million spend a year in terms of the 30 vendors that sit in that PRM space. And what we typically find is those organizations that have a very mature partner program, the guys that have been doing it since the day dot, probably before even I got into this world of IT in the 90s.
Right.
They've already got something they've established. They've probably built their own. They've chopped and changed and have lots of PRM experience in those organizations. But typically, those with an established and mature partner program have got a PRM. Where we're seeing most adoption right now is the organizations that are pivoting their GTM and are trying to go and take advantage of what others are doing in this indirect space, and therefore they're coming into the market and they're looking at solutions, and part of that is that they're looking for bringing in a PRM. So typically what we see is those with an established partner program that are driving revenue through have a PRM in place. Those that are newer to the game, and it's not saying we don't sell and work with those organizations that are already established. Like any opportunity, you win business, you lose business, you steal business off your competitors. So it's still a competitive place, and we have to make sure that we're driving technology forward and staying one step ahead and delivering value. But that's where the PRM market is at the moment.
Yeah, but for those, let's say, would a disty have a PRM then, or is it kind of more vendor oriented?
More vendor orientated. There are a couple of instances where disties do have them, and we're seeing more of that happening because they need to manage the multitude of different partners themselves. But obviously they work with a number of different vendors, so they end up working with a multitude of different PRMs from the 30 vendors they work with, which is really tricky. So disties are asking, can they get a singleized view to manage all of their partners where they can consolidate everything together? But we're not quite there yet, I see, but it's very much a vendor play at the moment.
Yeah, so it's there to support, help in the recruitment, the development of the kind of partner community. What makes a good partner? What makes a great partner program? Is it, if it's gold, silver, and bronze? That's really unique and original, isn't it? I mean, so what in your opinion? Because you must have seen, how many partner programs have you seen? I mean, I dread to think. But what makes what makes a good one?
What makes a good one? I think, the first thing is there has to be value to both parties. So it's not just valuable to the vendor that's doing it, right? They want revenue, they want to go and drive business through partners. But if there's no value to the partners, they're not going to bring you that revenue. So it has to be bi-directional value for both parties, right? Is there an opportunity in the market? Is this something that the customers need? Is this easy? Are they easy to work with? Are they going to enable us? Are they going to incentivize us? Are they going to want to work with us? Can we do business with them? Very simple to the direct model, but slightly different, right? You're not going to sell anything if there's not a value to someone who's buying the product. And the same in the indirect model. There's no value. If there's no value in them selling to their customer, then the program doesn't work. So in the first instance, with scaling and building a program, it doesn't have to be complex. You have to just understand what your partners are looking for, how they want to work with you, what type of relationship they want, and you have to be able to get them up to speed quickly, right? Bring them on board, give them the value proposition. And the thing I always say is, every organization has a sales enablement team or has a plan around sales enablement to establish a level of competency across their sales organization. You just have to do that with your partners because they are an extension of your sales team. They're your virtual sales team. So whatever you're doing to enable your guys to sell directly, you have to be able to build that in a model that allows you to enable the partners. So they know how you're going to sell. They have to go out with that, that same continuous message that your direct guys are. So it's just replicating that, delivering it to them and enabling them and supporting them moving forward. So it's very much about building a respectful, value-based, opportunistic model for partner programs. And then as you grow, and you go from turning over like 10% of your revenue, because you've just driven channel, to some of the biggest organizations globally where they take pretty much everything through channel, that's when you then get into the real complexities, your platinums, your silvers, your golds, your members, your authorized, different levels of discount, MDF. That's when complexity comes in. But at the start, it's very much about making sure that there's value in both parties. Because if you sign a partner and there's no value in it, or they're not committed, or they can't see the opportunity, it's just a logo collection. It's never going to drive any revenue for you.
So, do you have a partner program then? Because again, are you a direct seller, or are you developing? Are you looking for your own partner community and network as well?
So I spent the first 12 months of my tenure here at Allbound running global business development. And as part of that, for the last quarter or first quarter of this year, is I helped build out the partnership program for us. So it's something that we hadn't built out prior. And so I did both those. And recently, since the acquisition of Channel Mechanics, which we can come on to later, I've made that move across, and I'm now an enterprise sales account exec. So I'm just going back as a individual quota carrier now. But I was very much involved in picking up and driving and building that partnership program out. And we made some mistakes. We went out with a model. We thought we knew what we wanted to do. We went out and said, right, this is how we're going to do it. And then you suddenly go and work with partners, and they're like, we don't want a referral fee. We're agnostic. We can't take money, because if we're going out and referring the best solution in the market, we cannot be seen to be taking money off people. We have to be agnostic. So they want to work with MDF, or they want to do other things behind the scenes with you to help drive business development forward in return from a relationship. So we learned very quickly from having lots of conversations is that we needed to have a bit of a flexible partner program that meant that there was value and opportunity for both parties. Because if we just went with the referral model, we wouldn't have been open to moving some of these relationships forward. And a couple of them I'm still working with, even though I'm not running that partnerships and I'm not involved in the biz dev side of things. I am involved in biz dev because I've got my own mini business that I'm running, and I look at it in 4 ways. What am I prospecting? What's my BDR prospecting? What marketing doing for me? And what partners can I work with that are in the ICP that I want to work with? And what can they do for the prospects and the customers that I'm working with to help them drive more into their program? So I see partnerships not as a team, but as a direct seller, I see it's still part of my role to be working with them and leveraging them to bring value into what they're doing and to what I'm doing.
So you can sell directly, or does everything go through the channel?
I see both. Both. We have a hybrid model. About 20 to 40% of our business is either advocacy or through a channel partner. So advocacy is where we have someone move from one customer to another, or you pick up the phone and Steve Dawes, hey Steve, how you doing? Do you know any good people for the podcast? Dan's a great guy. A bit of advocacy, so you trust Steve, you trust his opinion. So we get a lot of advocacy, which we transact direct. But we also do work with some partners who go in, are doing a channel program overhaul, are doing a channel consultancy gig. And as part of that, they'll maybe do a digital experience evaluation. And as part of that, they'll say, now's the time for you to get a PRM. And then they'll engage us and we transact through those partners. So we have a hybrid model at the moment.
I've got down here to talk about advocacy because that was one of the posts. As I said, it was a few of your posts, and I'd recommend anybody watching or listening to go and have a look at Dan's LinkedIn profile and just have a look at his activity online. Is a combination of, as I said, I would have said very insightful posts, not the usual fluff, how pleased we are with X, Y, or Z. I mean, there's maybe a little bit of fluff there. There might be a few of those, but in the main, what I was reading was, kind of, I could read I wouldn't say a lengthy post, but maybe a couple of 100 words or whatever. But there was diamonds there. There was literally kind of insights that were kind of what worked for me. As I said, hence the reaching out. One of those was about advocacy, if I remember rightly. I would have used a different term. There might be an age difference here. You might be able to tell, Dan, I'm a little older. I'm a little older, and you could never at all. And I think you used words like advocacy, and the other one, nearbound, I think was another phrase. And I had to go and check out what the hell's that all about. Now, back when I would have been, as said, maybe more in your type of role, we used to call it a champion as well. Do you not use the term champion? Is because I would have said the advocate or advocacy is like a champion. They say that person who would refer you. I'll use the words of a gentleman called Mark Coates, so I'm going to have to introduce you to at some point. He's at Gigamon. But he once said to me, a champion, brilliant quotation. In fact, I've got it I even have it in my smart selling book. But a quote from, I have to put that in my publisher, and my wife would be very disappointed if I didn't give it a little bit of airtime. And I think that's the first time I've even mentioned it on the podcast so far. But Marco said a champion is somebody with a person with influence, authority, or let's say decision-making power, who sells when you're not there. That was the key to it. Who sells when you're not there, because the decision is typically made when you're not in the room. You know, your advocates. I would have said your advocates are the ones that are out there, effectively telling other people about your product, about you, about why they should work either with your platform or with yourself in particular. Let's say different language, and for Nearbound, which I think is to do with trying to sell to people you're connected to, is how it was referred to. I would have, the proximity is the word that I have used in the past. I went to see, the guy who did Wolf of Wall Street, would his name come to me? It should, the actual, I don't mean Leo DiCaprio, I mean the other guy, the actual Wolf of Wall Street. His name, Jordan, yes, not Jordan Peterson. I'd watch a lot of Joe, but another John Belfort. Belfort or Belfont, but I went to see him speak a few years ago, and he had a great line. He said, "Put yourself in the proximity of what it is you want to do, or where you want to be." So that's why people go to Hollywood. Do you know what I mean? If you want to be a famous actor, then put yourself in the proximity of it. In which case, waiting tables in Los Angeles might not be a bad idea in many respects, because you might bump into some of these people. But your thoughts on how does this advocacy and Nearbound, or those concepts, how does that fit into your way of working and your way of seeing things?
So advocacy and Nearbound are very new terms, right? People are starting to use them, but they've been around for a long time. And you're right, in different guises, and people have got different words for them. If I go back many, many moons ago, early 2000s, when I joined AppSense.
That's yesterday.
Yeah, it feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
Although when I look in the mirror, I know it's not, because it was. I've not aged too well. But when I look back then, when we did business with Citrix, we did business with Thinprint, we did business with Lakeside. We did it together. We got advocacy, we got intel, we got introductions, we got influence through a network of people that we work with on a regular basis, where we trust each other. I could pick up the phone to people in Citrix at the time and say, "Hey, look, I've heard something's going on here. What do you know?" And they'd be like, "Oh, you know what? Actually, I was meaning to call you because they've got this challenge here, and I think you'd be a great fit. Let me introduce you." Sometimes it would be, "Look, I can't introduce you. It's a sticky situation, but this is the guy you need to speak to, and this is what we're doing." And you go off and find your own way, and you work together, and you build that network. We did it with Fujitsu. Did a lot with Fujitsu. That's where I closed some of my biggest deals, built some strong relationships. And as I moved from company to company, I go back, and because I had that trust-based relationship, they would then say, "Where are you now? What are you doing?" And if it could fit into the proposition of they were working on, or the proposal that they were doing, they'd bring us in. And I did that twice at AppSense and twice at Eternity Riverbed as well, and closed some sort of multi-million-dollar deals through the channel, through advocacy, through Nearbound, through selling through my network. Did the same at EDF, went from AppSense, went to Eternity, spoke to the same person, had that trust-based relationship, understood their business, they were engaged with me. So, it's new terms we're hearing, but the methodology has just been around for a long time, and that's just what we did. It's just been now coined in a way and monetized, or it's a thing that people are jumping on the bandwagon. But, Nearbound, advocacy, it's been around forever.
So if I try and bring those concepts, if I try and bring advocacy and Nearbound together, does the PRM platform support that? Does it encourage it? Does it enable advocacy and working of the, say, that Nearbound network?
I don't think technology plays a part in it. It's just, it's that, it doesn't. If you have happy customers when they move, especially in the channel space, right, it's a sales-based role, and salespeople don't tend to have 20-year careers in one place. It doesn't happen that often. They have 12, 18, 24 months. They'll achieve their goals, or things aren't working. They'll move on and they'll go somewhere else, and they'll need to build a program out again. So guess what? If they've had a good, strong relationship with you, and we see this, 4 or 5 of the deals I'm working right now are people who have moved and have come back and said, "Hey, we love working with you at X. We're now at Y. I've got to go and build a new proposition out. I know you helped us. Can you come in and talk to us?" And they're not the only buyer. And then we've got to convince the operations people and some of the senior management to build a business case and secure the budget. But they're walking us in as the champion already and saying, "I want to buy you. I know the value you can give. help me go and build a business case and we'll get you into this organization. And, it happens more and more and we're seeing it a lot. So it's not PRM helps, it's having good technology, having good customer success teams, having good, strong relationships. And as people, people buy from people. And, that's the same way as you get jobs, right? If you sell, Paul Higley, I've worked for 20 odd years. We've worked at AppSense, Eternity Riverbed, Automation Anywhere and Allbound. We've worked very well together. We've gone at different times. We've done our own things. We've come back together, but we trust each other. And I love working for him. I know where I stand, what he do. He knows that I can sell. I can go and hit my target. So, he's an advocate of me and I'm an advocate of him. And, it's not just selling. It's about building that network and having a trust-based relationship.
And that network today, if I went back in the dim and distant past, seriously, there would have been a time when, somebody's Rolodex or Filofax, do you remember what a Filofax was? Your list of contacts. But it seems to me today is that LinkedIn is, I put a post on LinkedIn earlier myself. Again, another little light bulb moment in the bath this morning. Try not to picture that, by the way, but I'm kind of, the idea that effectively, LinkedIn used effectively, and particularly for the vendor, disty, and partner community, it's just like one giant Slack channel in many respects. Yeah, you can connect with everybody, and my guess is within the vendor, disty, and reseller community, sellers and marketeers most days are on LinkedIn. How much time do you spend on LinkedIn daily?
Yeah, daily. I'm on there daily. Whether I'm prospecting, whether I'm building content, whether I'm trying to consume content, I'm probably on an average at least an hour a day, maybe sometimes longer. I'm building my business up as I've just moved across. So a lot of my time is identifying the right accounts, and then I'm getting on there, seeing who the personas are, see who's connected. Is there any advocacy? Can I get to them through a trusted network? Or I'm just going to get their details and then put them into a prospecting campaign. So LinkedIn, I'm heavily using right now, and I'm upping my game to be more prevalent and more visible on the platform to give away some value to try and build my profile and my brand.
Your written posts and the video little clips that are on there, I thought were great. The other thought that I've had here as well is, as I said, there's a 20-year age difference between ourselves. I also kind of wonder as to whether LinkedIn also, hey, listen, you think about there's a lot of people in their 40s, 50s in the IT community out there. There's a lot of people in their 20s and 30s. My guess is the people in their 20s and 30s are kind of native at kind of online networking. They're fine on LinkedIn. The older guys, a lot of them probably a bit stuck in their ways. They might go on LinkedIn, but they're not necessarily that good at nurturing it, at cultivating it. And as I said, I just think it's a massive platform for harvesting. But you've really got to know what it is that you're doing. And as I said, that's kind of how we've got in contact. When I read one of your posts, you then made a link to Allbound 2024 report, which I've kind of gone through, and there's a few stats that I wanted to cover from that were kind of shocking or not shocking in some respects. Do you know what I mean? It was like you get some stats. Stats on, I think it was about it was a 2%, a 91%, and a 42%. Was it 2%? Was it, what was 2%?
2% of cold calls. 2% of cold calls generate a warm lead. 91% of sales leaders fail to hit quota. I can't remember what period that was on. And then 42.8% of tech sales reps failed to hit quota in Q3 of 2023.
Right. Well, I mean, for me, that's those are disastrous numbers in many respects. I mean, they're kind of need to wipe a tear away from it. 42% not hitting quota. 91% of sales leaders not. Again, those don't surprise me. Well, I've seen them, but I didn't realize they were so prevalent. But clearly, I say lots of pressure, lots of challenges out there right now. The other thing that report kind of made clear to me, and perhaps I can again shone a light on it. It's been out there a long time. I mean, I did a whiteboard for AWS a few years ago. They talked all about marketplace, but I never really twigged. It looks like the AWS marketplace is effectively going to be like is it going to do the same as Amazon did to the retail environment, where people could go online and buy their books, whatever it is, using one click? Are they trying to do the same thing in the tech arena where perhaps software, I don't know about services, but again, a lot of people would prefer to be able to buy without the intervention of a salesperson. They just want to press a button and it turns up 2 days later or whatever, or it's an immediate kind of upload. That disruption, I wonder, I can be a bit of a conspiracy theorist at times, but I put those two things together. Is the pressures on the sellers out there, the underperformance in many respects, is there a connection between that and the marketplace disruption? There is that term causation or correlation that you have to kind of, does the marketplace as a disruptor, as a disintermediator, is that causing a problem in the channel? Your thoughts?
Well, there's lots of things to unpick there. So if we start at the beginning, right, and with the sales quotas and hitting the quotas. Now, this is something I learned on LinkedIn, just on there, people posting stuff that actually I found valuable. I can't remember who, I think it may have been a Jordan Peterson clip or it led me to a Jordan Peterson. I remember Jordan Peterson because he's very prevalent in the social world right now.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Price's Law?
What is it?
Price's Law. The law is 50% of the work is done by the square root of the total number of people that participate in the work.
Right. The tiny number, basically. But it's not 80-20
yes.
Then, is it? It is it?
No, it's not. And what you see is as a company scales, the level of competence doesn't scale in the same level because the square root doesn't grow. So what they see is, if you have an organisation or salespeople of an organisation of 10 people, of 10 sellers, about 50% of the work will be done by 3 or 4 of them. If you have a sales team of 100, 50% of the work will be done by about 10 of them. 10 times 10 is 100.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, look, I'm sure there's variance in it, but effectively, that's what we see. And I've been in sales organisations and seen that for the last 20 odd years, right? I've seen people come and go. And there's only a few that manage to overachieve their numbers and achieve their numbers. And you typically get a few that overachieve, a few that hit the number, a few that ends up between that sort of 70, 80% and 100%, and then the big majority fall below. So those stats don't surprise me. I think it's always been like that. I think we've been just the availability of those metrics and the publicity of those metrics, I think, is more prevalent now and people get to see them. So that doesn't shock me and I see it all the time. Yes. But Price's Law is quite an interesting one. But then
it's an interesting. If it's including the square, if it's gone about the square root, is that oddly enough, I'm going back into mathematics at the moment. Lancelot Hogben here, mathematics for the millions. That sounded like instead of 80-20, which is quite a simple formula for people to get their heads around. If you're including square root. Did you see the Terence? Is it Terence Howard? I don't know if you saw that Joe Rogan interview. Okay, well, there's a load of stuff in there. Square root of 2, which is a bit mind blowing, but I'm going to have to follow up on Price's Law. So I'll go back. I think you were unpicking, is AWS Marketplace? It's not in there. Azure got a marketplace as well. I mean, is that the future of software and sales? Ultimately, is it going to be customers just going on and self-serving? So is the reseller, the troops, are they going to be reducing those in numbers? Because if they're not hitting their targets, is that one of the reasons why?
Yeah, a couple of things there. I think, why can we buy a book on Amazon, right, in one click? Because it's a commoditized item. We know what we need. I like reading X type of books. I go on Amazon, I click it. I need a new set of saucepans. I quickly go through, find the right ones, click, it's delivered the next day. It's free delivery because I've got my Prime. Exactly, right? It's easy to do. So it's things that are commoditized, you can simplify that buying process. And in those cases, 100% of the buyer decision is done online without the need for any salesperson.
Yeah.
And when you go to the other end of the scale, where you've got more complex problems to solve, buyers can't do all of that research and make the purchase themselves. So Marketplace suits a more commoditized, simplified offering where there's more understanding, crossing the chasm, right? When something has crossed the chasm, gone the other side, it's probably right for sitting on a cloud marketplace. Something that hasn't even really infringed in the early majority, if you whack that up on a marketplace, are people going to come and buy it? Probably not, because they're probably not aware of it.
I get the point, but I used to sell guitars back in the 1980s, and back then I could not believe that people would even think about buying a guitar mail order. As it, there was no internet back there, but it was, when I bought a guitar, I wanted to go in, I wanted to try the guitar, and I would choose the guitar, pick it by hand. Years later, no, I'm quite happy to buy a guitar, any piece of equipment online. Hey, listen, I got a Cybertruck on order it was literally a one-click purchase, £99 deposit with Tesla. People are buying $100,000 motor cars. You'd have said that a car is a very personal choice, but people are buying that literally on a click. And my guess is, I don't think Amazon would be pursuing the marketplace as they are if they weren't, and they've always been able. They're able to see 5-10 years ahead. I think. Well, let's put that to one side and see where we are in a few years with it. But that's, as I said, is it the disruptor? Is it going to disintermediate customers, end user buyers from the reseller channel community? Watch this space. I think that's where. And there was all this change in the channel. I think you even said the other day, kind of the channel, super hot topic at the moment. With these, what do you think is what's changed? Why the focus on channel? Tell me on the channel zone.
Why the focus on channel? I think why the focus? I think because direct's getting hard. I don't think the channel is the full answer, and it's not you may transact everything via the channel, but you still have to have a strong direct sales motion. I've had conversations with people like this. If you look back in 1997 when I joined the IT industry, and I can't find data on this, but I wonder how many tech companies were around in 1997 versus 2024.
Yeah,
and trying to find salespeople and routes to market is becoming trickier. So you have to diversify, and a channel is a low cost, less riskier model than stacking a sales floor full of expensive salespeople with real estate that's expensive and software that's expensive. When actually, if I find the right partners that are in the space that I want to sell, have relationships with the people I want to sell to, or have the models to go and build those relationships, why would I not leverage those at a lower cost of acquisition of a client? And you see that actually it's a lower cost of acquisition, and actually typically because the relationship's already established. If I want to go and sell to, I don't know, British Airways. Well, if I know someone that actually works with them and has an engagement and a procurement model and contracts in place with them, it's just logical. The sales cycle is going to be, if I can make the sale work and there is the opportunity and there's the value and all the stuff that needs to happen in the sales cycle. But if I can, I've got to go. It's going to take me 3 months to get a call in there. Whether Bob at XYZ reseller knows them already and take me in next week. So already I'm 3 months quicker. So that's one of the reasons why channel is really, really, really appealing to organizations, because it can shorten your sales cycle. You can grow your sales team overnight by triple, 100%, 300%. But if you find the right partners and you incentivize them, you work with them, and you have a strong channel model. Now, I make it sound really easy, but it's not that easy. And that being on the Channel Zone podcast, right? If it was easy, everyone would do it and everyone would be scaling their businesses, triple, quadruple digits, growth every year. But it's not. You've got to go and find the right partners. You've got to put the right people. You've got to invest as an organization. You've got to support the movement. You've got to identify the partners. You've got to incentivize. You've got to train them. You've got to have the right proposition. It's not easy to do. And there's a huge amount of sellers out there, direct sellers, because this model's been around since the dawn of time. And then there's not enough. I did it on one of the I think it was not a podcast. It was one of the interviews I did. One of the LinkedIn posts I did.
Yeah.
The amount of job openings for partnership leaders and partnership personnel in North America and Europe is huge quarter over quarter, because there's a lack of skilled personnel in this area to go and fill the demand for the rise of partnership roles, which is good. I think as more and more people work out how to do this, and also you need to get buy-in from a business top down. They're familiar, they understand the direct model, they've done it probably for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years in some cases, and partnerships may be new to them, and they're like, just go and make it happen, and we'll give that to Bob as a night job. Can you go and set up a partnership business for us? And it's like, yeah, if you're serious about this and it's going to be a proper go-to-market and you want it to work, you have to invest, not be a night job for Bob to do, as well as trying to sell some licenses as well.
Well, and I say, given the complexity, given the potential value of working with the channel, I can then see it's very much a people business, very, very much as I say, a person-to-person kind of people business. But the PRM, the platform itself, ultimately, say your partner managers might move every year or every 18 months, every 2 years. All of a sudden, they take all that information with them. Not necessarily the case with the platform in place. There's an awful lot of consistency remains. That's established. Your partner is already using it. Maybe a new face appears at your organization, but I can see why. And again, given the number of vendors and the number of resellers and MSPs out there, it's extraordinary. I mean, a few years ago did some work with Microsoft, and they were saying at the time there were 1,600 security vendors out there, and I thought that was ridiculous. But then I see some of the other numbers. It's mind-boggling. As I said, resellers and MSPs.
Huge.
A disty, I don't know. Well, they say they might have 8,000 partners in the UK. How many are out there?
Who was I looking at? I won't give away the name. I was looking at someone I'm wanting to prospect from a channel mechanics perspective, which is the acquisition we've made, which is the next level of PRM, where we can go up market and really help with some big challenges that these well-established partner programs, when I say well-established, I'm not talking 2 or 3 years, these things have been going 20 plus years, and have teams of maybe 50 people in there across operations, marketing, sales, partner, across the business everywhere. And they had over 100,000 partners. Globally, they had over 100,000 partners.
Channel mechanics.
Well known. But no, this is a prospect I was looking at. They had 100,000 partners. Yeah. So that's the scale, right? There's hundreds of thousands out there. But I think for me, or for a lot of people, I've been living in this direct world, just not even thinking about partners. But the partners have been there. They've been working. They've been doing a great job. And other organizations are realizing and going, Jesus, we need to get a piece of this. How do we make this work? Because we've seen companies scale and grow. Microsoft, SAP, SAS, Trend Micro, Sophos, Checkpoint, the list goes on, F5, organizations that have got, everyone knows of, everyone's heard of, they've been around for years. They didn't build their business by throwing and stacking salespeople higher and higher every year. They had a direct model, of course they did. But they also did the same effort and grew their partner business.
Right,
and if you look at some of these organizations, they may have 500 salespeople, but they've also got 1,000 partners that actually probably got another 5,000 sellers across them. So actually their sales network isn't 500 people, it's over 5,000 because they're leveraging the power of the channel. And organizations are now just starting to work that out, I think.
Super. All right. Well, look, let's start to wind things up here. Go back to, I think it was one of your little short video clips. I'm just intrigued on this one. You said something about a to-do list. You got a to-do list, and I think it's to do with really kind of prospecting in some respects, and three columns. Can you just give as a kind of parting gift, if you would, Dan? You just kind of throw this the pearls out here. Can you just explain that to me?
Yeah, as a salesperson, we have 3 things to do, right? And I'm kind of black and white with the way that I think things do, but right, we have 3 things to do. We have to close revenue. That's what we need to do, and we need to build momentum in deals and close revenue quickly, because that's our obligation to the business. That's why we've been employed. So the first thing is my column is C. What am I closing today, or what am I working to close in the next sort of this quarter, and what's my plan to do that? If there's nothing in that bucket, or I've done everything in there, the next one is what am I developing? What's out in Q3, or what's sort of in pipeline for Q2 that I need to be developing? What am I doing to move it along? And I'm working through those because I need to move from the develop to-do list into the close to-do list to hit my targets to fill my obligation to the business. If that's done or that's empty, which is my close and my development's fairly empty at the moment, being new into this role and building my business. Prospecting, what are you doing? And you have to get a balance every day. You can't just spend all your time closing, because it's great if you do that. I guarantee you spend all your time closing, you have a great Q2. But guess what? When you lift your head up and get into Q3, what's going to happen? Jesus, I didn't do any development or any prospecting. I'm not going to have a good quarter. And you end up with this lumpy sales cycle.
Correct.
So you have to be prospecting every day. But you start like, after this call, I've got some deals I'm closing this quarter. That's the next thing I'm on. I'm working those deals, getting one signed this week. There's one that we're working for in early June. I'm focused on those. Once that's done, it's like, what's in Q3 that I need to develop, strengthen, that I'm going to walk into Q3 with strong pipeline. Can I bring some of it forward? And then I've got a big block this afternoon where I'm going to kick off some cadences. I've done my research. I've got the right people. I'll be on to prospecting. And that's how I think about every day. What am I closing? What am I developing? What am I prospecting?
No, I mean, it's complete common sense. Do you know what I mean? But my guess is, those 42% of underperforming salespeople, and listen, I can put myself in there at times. I suffer from slippage. Deals I think are coming in and then slip and get pushed back. And it's too easy. It's too easy to get to just focus on the deals you're trying to close, and basically the consequence of that is that if you're not developing any future pipeline, you're gonna get caught pretty badly in the not too distant future. So great if you think along those lines. That's really impressive, and I like the idea of literally taking that to-do list. I'm a big believer in a to-do list, but putting the to-do list into those for business development, that specific business development to-do list of 3 columns, I think is fantastic. Thank you for that. That's a gift from Dan to all of you viewers and listeners out there. Check out Dan's LinkedIn profile, connect, read some of his posts, and watch some of his videos, and maybe do the same. As I said, who knows what can come from it. It was from those posts that Dan came to my attention. As I said, we're modern lovers. We met online, but it was LinkedIn, not, is it Tinder or something, whatever it is you guys use out there nowadays. But anyway, listen, thanks ever so much for being with us. I'm sure we'll do this again sometime, Dan. Thanks ever so much. And until we do it next time, all the best.
Mark, thanks ever so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And have a great day. Thank you.